And it's gone.
What?
It's gone. It's all gone.
Not socialism.
All right, let's not panic.
And it's gone.
I'll make the money back by selling one of my livers. I can get by with one.
Government should be a partner. Partner.
I don't need anybody's money. It's nice. I'm really rich.
And it's gone. Gone.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of the Global Crypto Podcast. I'm James Preston, executive editor at Global Crypto, and this season is proudly sponsored by Paxful. They're the world's leading peer-to-peer Bitcoin marketplace. Check them out, paxful.com, Paxful.com. Huge thanks to them for making this season possible, and they've done great work in the African Bitcoin space, so their support is truly appreciated. Check them out, paxful.com. Now, this episode is with a fellow countryman of mine, a South African. He's the CEO of AltCoinTrader, Richard Sousa. It's the third largest crypto exchange in South Africa, and he's done a lot of research into the DeFi space. So we tap into a lot of his knowledge around decentralized finance, which is truly intriguing. I'm really looking forward to getting into it. Unfortunately, we had trouble with the video feed. My video source cut out after 20 minutes of recording, and I've done everything I can. It's why we've been quite delayed with this episode. I've done everything I can to try and recover it. Unfortunately, I just couldn't do so. So please, we apologize for that technical difficulty. If you're listening in audio, don't worry. Our audio sources were absolutely fine, crystal clear right the way through the interview, so you don't have to worry. If you're watching on video here on YouTube, you will notice that we switch over to just stock footage of myself and Richard, just to kind of keep the video feed going. So we do apologize for that, and when you get to the end of the interview, I pop back just to say how's it and a big thank you as well. But I'm not going to waste any more time. Don't forget that episode 4 has Justin, son of Tron. Can't wait to release that to you, so be sure to tune in. For now though, let's enjoy this chat with Richard Sousa. This is the Global Crypto Podcast with myself, James Preston. I'm with the CEO of one of South Africa's biggest exchanges, Richard Sousa. Richard, welcome back to Global Crypto.
Thanks very much for having me, James.
So Richard Sousa, for those of you that don't know, he has become quite a leading voice in the DeFi space. Of course, decentralized finance, known as DeFi, running smart contract, yield farming has become a craze in 2020. And you've become quite a leading voice here in South Africa. And so, especially for those on the African continent looking at trying to perhaps expedite their returns on their crypto trading, we wanted to get a bit of insight into your experience in the DeFi space. So let's talk a little bit about your most recent listing on AltCoinTrader. You listed one of the DeFi projects, Comp. What was the reason for specifically listing Comp, and do you have plans to list more in the coming months?
James, look, Comp at the time that we listed it was a very hot and happening DeFi project. And that is very much the motivation behind it. We did foresee at the time that there was going to be coming a flurry of all of these DeFi projects. So Comp was a good place to start. DAI, of course, was the second listing that we did, which was also a very good coin. And that enables people to really take advantage of DeFi in as much as loans go. The reason I'm circling back to that is, remember, the reason that I got into DeFi, and it was a little bit of a while back, it wasn't because of the current DeFi fiasco or whatever's happening now where people were making these stupid gains. It was more because DeFi was a real use case. It was an alternative financial option, if you want to put it that way. So it wasn't that DeFi was even decentralized. It was, and it started and it initiated from my point of view when I couldn't get a loan from the bank. And I realized I had collateral in cryptocurrencies, and I found a way to leverage that collateral and buy real world assets. And that's what got me so excited and so passionate about the DeFi path. And then it evolved, and right now it has got into probably silly season, and we've seen these crazy gains, but I'm sure we're going to talk more about that.
Well, let's talk about that, the mechanism behind yield farming. Just explain to our audience, for people that may be new to this space, I mean, people understand collateralized loans and a smart contract facilitating that. But this yield farming has become a really significant craze. As you say, you use the term silly season. What is the mechanism that generates those kind of returns? How does it work?
Okay, so I normally compare this to companies that started and were giving away free things. A case in point would be Uber. In the early days when Uber started, because it was a concept that people were not familiar with, and they needed a way to get this out to the public and get people actually in those seats. So what they did is they started giving away $50 if you took a ride or if you referred someone, and they started with affiliates and they were giving away part of their advertising budget, basically to get people to start and get involved in, their business. And the mechanism behind DeFi, and I think what a lot of people don't realize, is that as we are transitioning from centralized exchanges to decentralized exchanges, new competitors are coming into the market, new coins are being created, new protocols have been initiated, and these guys want to get their liquidity into the DEXs, they want to get their coins distributed. The only way that they can do this is by offering part of their budget or their coins, which initially have zero value, so they're not even offering something that has substance or has value, but offering that in the way of yield farming, thereby driving people to push liquidity into the DEXs. So it really is the start of a company, a startup, or a business that's wanting to go mainstream, and they are offering their tokens in the way of liquidity farming or yield farming or liquidity mining, whichever term you want to use, but they are offering their tokens to kickstart and to get that spark going and to get their liquidity on the decentralized exchanges.
How does someone identify the next company or project that wants to start a DeFi project, and that user says, hey, I'm looking for new coins to purchase so I can take advantage of what they're offering and these incredible returns. How does that new user identify those early stage coins and projects?
So right now, I mean, it seems like every hour there's a new project coming out. Just to stay up to date, you basically need a team of guys doing research. So it is really tricky. I mean, a lot of this information is coming out from the community on YouTube, and guys are obviously pumping and promoting a lot of the new projects. With this potential bull run that we're looking at right now, of course, there's a lot of scams. So I think to answer that question twofold, first of all, you've got to first identify whether it's a scam or it's a legitimate project. And once you have identified that and you believe it is a legitimate project, then you've got to try and work out what is the longevity of this project and how long are those returns going to be there. And if the guys have the best intentions, is the coin going to go to zero and you're going to potentially lose a lot of money? So you need to consider those factors. And of course, there's the more cautious approach where you could just say, let's look for a project that's been running a little while, and when I say a little while, in this time frame and this space, we're talking about a couple of weeks, possibly a couple of days, but let's say weeks. That would be a way to shortcut it. If you want to get in early, obviously there is a lot of risks, and I think a lot of people that are in the industry that are very knowledgeable have actually come short jumping on the bandwagon with these new projects. But the flip side of that is, of course, that a lot of people that have jumped in early with these projects have made really, really profitable gains. So it's a very difficult question to answer. There is no guide or no rule because we are so new to the space and to DeFi.
What about the DEXs? Which are some of the best decentralized exchanges that you would recommend users use?
Well, I personally like Uniswap, and I'm sure that comes as no surprise because Uniswap is the single biggest DEX. I mean, before centralized exchanges, they've never even considered that DEXs would be competitors or would come close to doing the volume that centralized exchanges do. But in the last couple of months, we've actually seen that the decentralized exchanges are beating a lot of the centralized exchanges, which is a clear shift in what is going to happen in the future. It is very seamless, very effortless to start trading on a DEX. You don't have to even have a password, let alone KYC or documents. If you have the private key of your Ethereum address, you can simply start trading. No one can stop you. Of course, it's permissionless. So Uniswap would be one. I think some of the other ones to watch, of course, are Balancer. And then, of course, we've got the DEX aggregators like 1inch that really just are using protocols of other DEXs. But DEXs are popping up all the time. We've got KyberSwap. It's not one of my preferred DEXs, because you can't just simply put liquidity on and off. I know that they are planning to change that, but certainly Uniswap, hands down, that is one of my favorite ones. And I think that the community agree, because it's the biggest and that's the most used decentralized exchange.
All right, just before we continue, we're going to take a short break to hear from our sponsors, Paxful.
Support for this podcast comes from Paxful. At Paxful, we believe Bitcoin is more than just a digital currency. It's a new way of life that will completely disrupt the global financial system. Paxful is a people-powered marketplace that allows for money transfers with anyone, anywhere, at any time. Using over 300 different payment methods, you can buy and sell Bitcoin using bank transfers, cash, and even gift cards. With borderless transactions, the ability to start a business, along with the numerous opportunities for social good, Paxful is set to change the world. Create an account today to get your free Bitcoin wallet and begin trading right away. Paxful, you'll never look at your money the same way again.
And we're back. Once again, a massive thank you to Paxful for making Season 2 possible. We appreciate their support. I want to just get your input and thoughts around Ethereum. Obviously, a lot of these DEXs utilize the Ethereum virtual machine. They are running smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain, and these transactions are facilitated on the Ethereum blockchain. A lot of people are concerned about the scalability of Ethereum as it gets more and more congested. Do you foresee Ethereum's scalability being a challenge as DeFi grows and expands, or is this a hurdle that's going to be overcome? What are your thoughts?
So I think it's no longer a question of can Ethereum scale. We clearly know that in its current form, it cannot scale. It just can't do it. We saw that over the last couple of weeks with fees. The fees on Ethereum basically shut out a huge percentage of the market, because unless you're trading with huge volumes, paying $20, $30, sometimes $40 for a single DEX exchange. On Uniswap, you could pay up to $40. Some guys even telling me $50 to switch out a token. You have to really, really have a profitable trade to make that work. But it's not only that. Adding liquidity to a platform like Uniswap is costing hundreds of dollars, which has really cut out a huge chunk of the market. So Ethereum cannot scale. This leaves the ecosystem ripe for another competitor to come in and to actually start overcoming some of these scalability issues. We've seen Polkadot, or the Dot Network. They are offering a lot of solutions, and it's still early days, so it's going to be very exciting and interesting to see how that plays out. I think that what will happen is, as the Ethereum, which can't scale, overflows, we'll see a lot of these funds going into Tron, with a TRC20 tokens. We'll see a lot of this exuberance in the marketplace actually flowing over to those other platforms, and a rising tide lifts all ships. So it is actually unfortunate that Ethereum is not able to scale, because it is seriously hampering the progress that we could see in the space. As far as Ethereum 2.0 goes, that's been on the cards for many, many years. And when I just look at the task that the Ethereum community have before them to actually achieve this transition to Ethereum 2.0. I'm just so glad that I don't have to do that. It is a mammoth talk. So I'm sympathetic and patient, and I think it will happen. Certainly not this year, but when it does happen and we do resolve a lot of these scalability issues, if it hasn't got to a stage where a lot of the competition have actually come into the market, Ethereum will once again be the king of the block, and we can expect to see that this will continue.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, it could be a very long time, as you say. You spoke earlier off microphone about your learning of Solidity, obviously a Python-based language where you can code for Ethereum. What has your experience been coding for various smart contracts within the Ethereum ecosystem? Is it user-friendly? Is it an easy language to comprehend for a developer like yourself? And what would you recommend developers looking at Ethereum learn in terms of coding language?
Well, I've heard Ivan on Tech say many times in his adverts that on LinkedIn, blockchain developers is the number one position that people are looking for on LinkedIn. So there is certainly going to be a massive marketplace, and I'd advise any young people or any people that are going into the programming field to start learning blockchain, Solidity. All of these things are going to be required if you are going to want to be a programmer. If you are a good programmer in any of these fields, there is huge potential, and obviously there will be huge financial rewards if you get involved in that. I personally have always, as you know, programmed in more traditional languages, PHP, JavaScript, and so on. So learning Solidity for myself is certainly not for financial gain. I'm just doing it because I enjoy it. It's a hobby for me. I'm passionate about it. And when you have an innovative idea, obviously I would still take that out and get it done professionally, but just knowing that I can assist, or if it's a small project, I could do it myself. So I'm learning Solidity. I'm finding it difficult to get started. The challenges are not that great, but it is challenging me, to say the least. But I'm doing it because I'm passionate about it, and I'm thoroughly enjoying my time looking at the smart contracts. What kind of work are you doing? I mean, if you're playing around, give us some examples of stuff that you are experimenting with. Well, look, just so that we have a realistic idea of my level, I would classify myself as a beginner, a real absolute beginner. I'm looking at, from a hobby point of view, programming things like if you send XZAR to an Ethereum address, it would send you the Ethereum in return. And if you sent Ethereum to address, you could get XZAR. The reason that those type of little projects excite me and I'm passionate about them is because it provides an additional decentralized on and off ramp for people to actually play in the DEX space. So, good point to raise XZAR. Just before we get there, your thoughts on the future of DeFi? I mean, you spoke about how there is a rising tide coming. There is a lot of people flooding into this space, and with the bottleneck of Ethereum's scaling, a lot of people don't necessarily want to move over to Tron or perhaps Stellar or some of the other networks, Polkadot network. The future of DeFi really does look like, I mean, we're looking 5 years down the road here. It looks like the future of finance, right? What do you foresee happening in the next 5 to 10 years, thanks to this industry? That's a very good question, James. I mean, there's a lot of skeptics that are just simply throwing their hands in the air saying, guys, this is unsustainable. It's very much like a Ponzi scheme, or it's reminiscent of the 2017 ICO craze. And I'd like to just caution guys against that, who think that it's totally unsustainable and it's going to be gone. Whenever there's a new change or shift that comes into finance and into the traditional finance system, we are going to see times of exuberance. We're going to see people doing crazy things and returns that when we look back in years, we're going to go, okay, that was crazy. But the experimentation that is being done now, the projects that are being built now, and us as a community finding out where these boundaries are, and the excitement behind this is going to stand us in very, very good stead because we are experimenting. This is a sandbox, and this is a very, very real threat to the traditional financial system. And what has been built now is going to be around in an improved form for many, many years. I think that people underestimate the banking or the financial sector. If we think that that is probably one of the highest paid industries in the country, why are we so skeptical when we're cutting out the middleman and we're seeing some of those gains? Why are we just saying it's unsustainable? Traditionally, we're competing with the highest paying industry. DeFi, we've seen some really good returns. These things, in my opinion, go hand in hand. While I would caution people to be, to go slowly and just to use common sense when getting involved in the space, I think to say it's just a phase and it won't be around for a long time is missing the vision of what crypto and decentralization as a whole is going to offer us.
So you're saying that in your mind, DeFi is the next level almost of what Bitcoin originally presented in its white paper 2008, 2009?
To a certain extent I am, but to put it clearer or to phrase it differently, crypto is going to eat the world. It is going to eat the financial space. It is going to eat the record-keeping space. It is going to eat every single area that we know of how we account for our wealth as humans, of how we account for the economy as humans, is going to be usurped and taken up by crypto. So in years to come, the deeds office where your property is registered is going to be blockchain based. All of these things, the systems that we currently now have and the systems that we use, the gap is so huge between these systems and it will come together. It just takes time. So crypto is not only going to eat the financial sector, it will. And I'm not saying it's going to eliminate the traditional financial sector, by no means, because there's space for everything to flourish. But as we progress and as we move on, crypto is going to be playing a bigger and bigger role, and eventually the better system will win out. It's just obvious.
Let's move on to your hobby project that you mentioned, which has become quite a serious project, actually. XZAR. It's a blockchain-based stablecoin linked to the South African rand. What's your plan here? This looks like you have a pretty big vision. What are you currently doing with it, and where do you want to take it?
Well, XZAR was originally brought about because the need of a stablecoin is so great. What we wanted to do was allow the frictionless flow of money in the crypto space. Whether that be between exchanges, whether that be between centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges, or of course, whether it be just between you and I peer-to-peer. And all of those things are possible and are starting to happen. What we've found happening more and more, and where XZAR is really taking off, is that people are using it to transition out of AltCoinTrader into decentralized exchanges. So in other words, it is an on-ramp to get you into a DEX. So if you have rands and you convert it into XZAR, you can go and trade on Uniswap, you can trade on Balancer, you can trade on many decentralized exchanges. It is listed and it has reasonable liquidity on all of these exchanges. And you can arbitrage, you can take advantage of a lot of the good trading options. But in addition to that, you can get coins that are new, that are hot, that haven't even hit the main exchanges yet. So it gives you that advantage. Of course, there's a lot of use cases for XZAR. We've put on the website that this is an open project. Anyone is welcome to use it, knowing at any stage you can come to AltCoinTrader and cash it out for rands. Giving it the AltCoinTrader platform's full backing. At any stage, if anyone, whether they are AltCoinTrader client or not, whether they've received the money from a friend, whether they've received the money from a DEX, whether they've received the money from, when I say the money, I'm talking about the XZAR token, from an overseas exchange, they can cash it out with us and be fully assured that they will get the full rand value for that.
Are you ever planning on building your own DEX?
We have considered that, and to a certain extent, we've built our own DEX, but it seems unviable and pointless, because there are so many DEXs that are filling the role that. So with crypto, and the spirit of crypto is not to try and own the entire ecosystem. Uniswap is doing a great job. Why would we build our own DEX? Why would we compete? If we found that Uniswap was failing in an area, or there was certain functionality that we felt we could do better than these DEXs, we would certainly roll our own DEX out. But right now, I don't think that we can compete with the products that the community is putting out. So it is just that. It is a decentralized exchange. There's no reason that we need to get onto that space. What we need to do is facilitate the community and show them how to frictionlessly move in and out of DEXs, in and out of centralized and decentralized exchanges.
What about some of our international audience that could be watching this, maybe some in other international, local African exchanges or jurisdictions? Do you offer any kind of service to people outside of South Africa? Would you suggest they explore perhaps purchasing some XZAR? Can they trade on AltCoinTrader, or are you strictly focused on the South African market?
Look, I think right now, to answer that directly, you are able to sign up with AltCoinTrader regardless of where you are in the world. So there's no restrictions. So if you're in North Africa or anywhere on the African continent, you can simply sign up with AltCoinTrader. Now, the only restriction that comes into play, and I think you'll find this with most South African restrictions, because of the capital controls, we cannot send the fiat money out of the country. We can send the Bitcoin, we can send the Ethereum, we can send the XZAR, we can send anything out of the country, but not our fiat, because there are capital controls imposed by our government. So the benefits to someone in one of these countries of having XZAR are reasonably limited. You could arbitrage, you could make it, but at the end of the day, at the point of exit, XZAR would be of little value to them. So XZAR, at this stage, although it is being used all over the world, it always comes back to the source at the point of cashing out. Unless, of course, you cash out into Bitcoin or Ethereum or any cryptocurrency. But then whoever sold that to you will eventually come back and cash it out this side. So it's not an international opportunity. It is a very, very powerful local opportunity, though.
Let's talk about local, South Africa. You mentioned our foreign exchange control. Do you foresee the South African Reserve Bank ever trying to establish exchange control on cryptos? Obviously, that's very hard, but do you think they'd ever try?
So it doesn't matter what I think. The fact is they are trying to do it. So a resounding yes. The regulators are trying to impose exchange control on crypto. So much so, and this is what industry is constantly negotiating with them. This is why we are having meetings with the regulators, and this has become a stumbling point. Even to the point that if you withdraw a Bitcoin to the ledger that you keep in your house, that is considered taking the money out of the country. As crazy as that sounds, that is the legislation that is or possibly will be put forward. And it's a big problem because obviously as exchanges, we are constantly encouraging people to take control of their own money, not your keys, not your crypto. And we're saying unless you're using it for active trading, or of course, if you don't have the knowledge to secure your own crypto, then the safest place is on exchange. But if you are knowledgeable and you know how to use a ledger, then we encourage our clients to take the crypto off of the exchange, which would be contravening what the government has legislated, which really opposes not only the legal system, but just logic.
Do you think they'll be able to impose that? I mean, technically it sounds like just too big a task.
Well, when you're dealing with a centralized exchange, the government, because we have a fiat component to our exchange, we are in a position to give them reports of what happens. So to a certain extent, it will be something that will be enforceable, hence the use of decentralized exchanges. So it won't be long before a savvy investor or trader or crypto holder understands how he can use a decentralized exchange, and which is very bad news and is short-sighted by the regulators, because what it will do is it will drive the South Africans away from centralized exchanges, and it will drive them into the decentralized exchanges, which is essentially not a bad thing, but for the country's economy and for our own fiscus, it would be a negative way for things to go.
Do you foresee conflict globally, not just South Africa, but globally, conflict between crypto enthusiasts, libertarians, blockchain developers, etc., and regulators? Whether it be protests outside regulators and central banks, whether it be more than that, where we look at the Silk Road raid and Ross Ulbricht getting arrested for running the Silk Road, and that incites protests, widespread arrests. Is conflict a reality for the crypto industry in the next decade?
It's a very, very complex scenario, and it's a complex question. So the reason why I believe governments and regulators haven't just come out and outrightly banned crypto is twofold. First of all, they are very scared that people will just exit their country and go somewhere else and continue the trade to a country that is more friendly. And that would have, if crypto does what it potentially could do, that would have a devastating effect on that country's economy. Not only that, but that country would be totally left behind with the new technology. And that is a massive, massive risk for regulators. The second thing is that it is very much unstoppable. So if they attempt that, it's not a given that they could actually get it right, because we've seen in China, although they've tried many, many different forms of banning crypto, and crypto is absolutely thriving. So because crypto is just a better system, there's nothing else, there's no way to put it. As humans, we are innovators. Okay, as a collective consciousness, we are going to say, guys, we can no longer use an inferior system. Now, of course, that is not as simple as it sounds, because a lot of people are ingrained in the way they think and the way they work, and a lot of people, as they age, are not really wanting to learn new things. But as the new generations come up, they are not going to tolerate inferior systems. And that conflict that you speak of is almost going to be disallowed by the upcoming generation, if I can put it that way. So I don't foresee conflict. I foresee a huge problem that regulators are going to face in trying to enforce the inferior system. At some stage, it's just going to no longer be acceptable.
Just in wrapping up, Richard, your political views, I'd really be keen to get your insight into where you stand politically. I mean, a lot of people in crypto are libertarians. A lot of people in crypto are opposed to state regulation. Do you we'll be honest here, and I don't know if you're allowed to say this, but we're in a hotel that you've invested in. You own some rooms in this hotel, the Blueberry Hotel here in Johannesburg. You are an active investor in the South African economy, for instance. Obviously, such investing requires regulation. It requires tax to fund that regulation, all that kind of stuff. Do you believe there is room for the state, or do you believe we should be operating in an entirely private economy where each man is his own sovereign individual? Where do you stand?
James, that's an interesting question. I believe, let's just take this a couple of steps back. Many years ago, we had to separate church from state, because church was able to use the word of God or the voice of God in a way that they could manipulate the state into doing illogical things. Now, I'm not saying that the church doesn't hear the word of God, but what I am saying is that there is occasion and there's opportunity where they can counterfeit that and use it to man's benefit. Now we've evolved to a situation where we have to separate finance from state, because the government because it controls the finances, has the liberty of doing a really poor job and still staying in power. And I believe that there always will be a position and a place for state because of the way we are as humans. We need to have a hierarchy and we need to have people that do certain functions. But what we've got now is a very distorted version of that, where the people that have the money have the power. And this is where we've got the problems. So if we can separate finance from state, we get to a point where government would be more serving of the people and would be more accountable for their actions and for their decisions. It wouldn't be a situation now where they could do what they like and there's no consequences. So I'm going to give a resounding yes. I believe state is valuable. I believe as a human society, we need to have this in place. We need to have a state. We need to have a system. We have a social contract that we've all signed, not literally signed, but we've signed it in our minds and we all complied to it. And I don't think that that is a bad thing. I think that when one party can break that contract with zero consequences, that is a bad thing. So my answer is yes, we need to have state and we need to have it in the correct way. I believe that finances need to be separated from state. I believe that we have evolved as a species to a point where we no longer will have to work a full day to earn enough money to eat. And once we've got there, and I believe we're there already, the finances that we earn, we will need to do innovative things with it. Whether it's invest, whether it's play games, whether it's whatever it is, we are going to have to change the mindset of everyone. Hunger is no longer a financial problem, it is a logistical problem. So we have got to the point where we have enough control over our planet to actually not have to work. We as a generation are preparing planet Earth as a hotel for our children that come. And as you know, when you go to a hotel, you're not expected to work to keep things running. You are a guest. So we need to conquer this planet to the point where that happens. And separating finance from state is one of the steps along that road. This is a topic that we could discuss for hours, but that is my views on that. So I'm not libertarian to the point where I think there's no place for state. I think that that would be chaotic. But I do think that we need to have accountability, and the only way that we can get accountability from authorities is to take away the finances so that they don't have a blanket budget to do whatever they want to.
Wow, well, extremely philosophical and wonderfully succinct on presenting your views there. Richard D'Souza, thanks so much.
Thanks very much, James.
And that's where we leave it. What a great chat with a man passionate about this industry and what crypto assets have to offer society. You can follow Richard on Twitter, RadsACT, really simple, RadsACT, and he's got a great YouTube page as well where he's putting up regular content around how to better your experience and learn more about this incredible industry and the technology as well. So check him out. Richard D'Souza, thanks for joining us for episode 3. Next week, it is Justin Sun of Tron, the CEO of the Tron Foundation and of BitTorrent as well. It's going to be really great, and I can't wait to release that to you. If you're not subscribed, please do so wherever you're tuned in right now, on YouTube, on your favorite podcasting platform. Follow us on Twitter, Global Crypto TV. We appreciate all your support. And hey, share this with your friends. We are out to produce content that educates and inspires you in an industry that is truly transforming the world as we know it. Until next time, goodbye for now.
And it's gone.
What?
It's gone. It's all gone.
Not socialism.
All right, let's not panic.
And it's gone.
I'll make the money back by selling one of my livers. I can get by with one.
Government should be a partner. Partner.
I don't need anybody's money. It's nice. I'm really rich.
And it's gone. Gone.